Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. This is your boy, the coach from the WWE. I would like to welcome you to the very first wrestling podcast in the world to take you on a weekly deep dive into classic matches along with legends of the squared circle. Enjoy the discussion. Enjoy the back and forth. There's so much to get into. Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Payoff.
Welcome to an all-new episode of The Payoff. I'm Tom. That's Jeff. Austin, Hart, Survivor Series 96. The Attitude Era is starting to happen. We're getting a little rougher in the old WWF. But first, Jeff, how the hell are you doing?
You know, I love covering these Bret Hart matches, but they always bring back the terrible memories of me never getting a pair of Bret Hart sunglasses growing up as a kid. And so, which I can you even see through them? Like, you know what? I don't even know.
No, they were, I had a pair. They were the cheapest, awfulest things ever. Like, they didn't fit right. They were really big. You couldn't see shit through them, but
yeah.
It was such a cool look.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm always super upset over the fact that, you know, I just never got a pair, but you know what? I'm going to power through this episode. We got a great match lined up. And so I'm excited for that. And so no matter what, I'm going to put my personal feelings aside on this one. And I'm looking forward to this one.
All right. Why'd you want to cover it?
This is one of those ones I remember when we were kind of looking through the matches and kind of, as I do, and just kind of figuring out, you know, what we want to do and what we want to cover and stuff like that. And I was like, shit, how did we not cover this one? And so it's another one of those where I was like, okay, it's time to cover this one. So let's do it. And so that's why we are now covering this one, is because I don't know how we haven't up until this point, whether I was, you know, waiting for a Survivor Series moment or something like that, but we're here now, and that's the important thing. And so we're going to cover it and go from there.
Well, and it's interesting because this is always the one that gets a little forgotten in the folklore of Austin Hart, you know, WrestleMania 13, but you know, this was a barn burner too. And I'm really excited to cover it.
Yeah, we got a lot to, I say not a long one. It's longer than, you know, most of the ones we cover. So we're going to get into it, but yeah, I'm ready. You know, let's move on, man. Let's
jump into the build.
Oh, it's time for the build.
All right, so Survivor Series 96. Where are we at? We are at the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden, November 17th.
Baby. Yep.
And this is big because this is Bret Hart's return, which you're going to get into, and really, you know, interesting. Maybe the behind the scenes stuff more interesting than
little hiatus. Yep.
Yeah. So we had an interesting dark match. I'm not going to go through every single name of this, but we had an interesting dark match of just a hodgepodge of 4-on-4 in a Survivor Series elimination match. That's kind of cool. They did a dark match of that, but of course it kind of burned me out in person, I think. Interestingly enough, I watched a little bit of this show this morning, Jeff, and I was looking at the team of the British Bulldog, Leif Cassidy, Marty Jannetty, and Owen Hart, and it's like, interesting because I think they're all Hall of Famers. And my question, maybe we'll talk about it later, but like, Al Snow, is he a Hall of Famer? I was like, yeah, I actually kind of think he should be. He had a really good career and he's trained a lot of guys. And I don't know, I think he's left a great legacy. And I think Marty Jannetty should be in there with the Rockers.
We'll see.
Undertaker defeated Mankind in 15 minutes. Then we've covered this match, the Rocky Maivia debut. That went 23 minutes. Then the match that we're covering, which was actually a number one contender match. The match before the main event was another 4-on-4 Survivor Series match. They did a lot of 4-on-4s, which probably a little better than 5-on-5, you know. But that thing ended in a no contest in 9 minutes. And then the reason we're here, or I'm sorry, that was the reason we're here, but the reason they were there, the main event, Sid, Shawn Michaels, Sid wins the title, and that was the famous spot that Vader was maybe supposed to have and get the title from Shawn and have the rubber match. But I think we really missed out on Vader's full potential. But yeah, Sid took that spot. So poorly rated matches outside of the main event, but then the highest rated match, the one we're going to cover, 4.5 stars, Bret Austin. So Meltzer's readers gave this 67% thumbs up, 20% thumbs down, 11% in the middle. I got to tell you, man, I thought this was a pretty damn good show. Outside of, not everything being great, but, the Bret Austin match, the Sid Shawn match, Rocky's debut. Really interesting show. So storyline standpoint, interesting year in 96 for Bret Hart. How did we get to this point where these two were wrestling in Madison Square Garden?
Yeah. And so this is of course I'll start with Bret. It was actually at the time, a rematch of their 1992 match. Bret actually, defending the title against who at the time was a heel, the British Bulldog at Seasons Beatings, which was December 1995. And so we'll kick off there on our timeline and work towards Survivor Series. And so December 1995, them having that match, and them losing to The Undertaker is actually by DQ at the Royal Rumble in 1996. You had Diesel interfering, but it's still retaining the championship at that point because of that. And then actually having a rematch on Raw as well too. Again, we have feuding with Diesel at this point as well, and kind of going through that. So, beating though, retaining his title after finally taking on Diesel at In Your House 6. And then also beating Hunter Hearst Helmsley. A lot of big names, like Bret just kind of working through them all, kind of having matches with everybody, just kind of dealing with all that. So, and then getting to at this point, this WrestleMania 1996 would have been WrestleMania 12, after, Shawn, Hart and Shawn, Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels taking on each other in the Iron Man match. We all know, just the absolute classic match, things like that. So, just hard to, I wish we could cover that and take the time, but it's just tough. But yeah, just the classic 60-minute 0-0 at the end of 60 minutes. And so, ending in a tie, but then restarting it. Of course, one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time. And so, you then at this point, and so this is where Austin finally comes into the picture, is after Mania, you had the European tour, taking on really Stone Cold and Triple H at this point. At the end of the tour, Bret actually took a little bit of a break, like you said. So this would have been April 22nd, when the tour ended. He actually had some like tape things, but for the most part, that was like, he was kind of done at this point. And so, kind of storyline things we were hearing about Bret, kind of taking offers from WCW, kind of behind the scenes, a lot of things happening. Him being offered just a gigantic contract from WWF for like 20 years, like just absolutely crazy shit. And so he actually had to wrap up his kind of previous deal. So coming back, it was actually September of 1996. Having a match and coming back, but then also re-signing. So he pretty much took most of that summer off, and kind of dealing with that. And so, and then coming back actually October 21st, is when he decided to re-sign. So it was very quickly, because less than a month, November 17th is when we had this match. So very quickly after I say his return, things started to play out, but he had, especially the European tour, had some matches with Stone Cold, but not a ton. And so you're kind of dealing with that. Now, on the flip side, though, Stone Cold, 1996 was, one of his biggest years ever. And so starting with the King of the Ring, of course, the birth of Austin 316 and having that as well, too. For better or worse, like you said, like, Vader potentially, people replacing, if you will. And so this was the curtain call as well, too. And so, Austin winning because of the, people, Triple H being punished because of that. And so kind of having that. And so we kind of get into this. And so, while Bret was gone, part of to play up the story and, probably getting worked a little bit here, everybody at the time, was that Austin really challenging Bret, taunting him and things like that. So whether he knew that Bret was coming back or, what exactly was going to happen here, like he was playing up the fact that Bret was, not there and he wanted him to come back and have a match. So it worked. And so they had a little bit. And so, but then, deciding to have this match. Now, also at this point too, this is where you get the, we've talked about it a few times on the show. Of course, this is the infamous Pillman's Got a Gun segment as well too, that happened just about 2 weeks prior to this match happening. And so, we all know the story. We don't need to get into it too much at this point, but Austin kind of getting up, Pillman defending Bret, saying he was a good wrestler and stuff like that, being upset. You got the two guys kind of getting angry with each other. Like you said, the kind of rise of the Attitude Era type stuff. Like, yep, this is your telltale sign right here of like this kind of segment, kind of what had happened. And so that was actually November 4th when that happened. And so November 17th is when this match happened. And so Austin really the wave was only getting bigger at this point. So between King of the Ring, this challenging Bret, like just, he was really, the rocket was strapped and he was taken off.
Yep. That is right.
And that's all we got. I'm
pumped for this one, man. I'm really pumped for it.
Yep. Let's all right, season 10.
Yeah. Season 10, 96 Survivor Series. We're at the 1 hour and 32-minute mark. Jeff, are you ready?
Let's get into it.
All right. It's time for the payoff.
Oh, it's time for the payoff.
All right. Austin circling the ring. Remember, Austin's the heel. Bret's the baby face in this match.
Yep. Face to face.
Just great
standoff.
Stuff, man.
Yep.
Bret's been gone all summer, over, like 8 months. Austin flips him off. Tim White backing off Austin.
I love how it was blurred.
Did you see the recent report that WWE is trying to hire smaller refs?
I actually did see that because they want everyone to look a little bit bigger. Sure.
I actually think that makes a lot of sense. I'm like, what? I don't know. I always thought like Earl Hebner was like your perfect referee because it made ref bumps believable. And I don't know. I liked it. I always thought like that every referee should look like Earl Hebner, should be that size and move around like that. And just made sense.
And I've talked about it on the show before. This is why New Japan uses the low camera angles, is because WWE straight across, AEW straight across, but they use the kind of the ringside low camera angle because it makes the wrestlers look bigger, which, yeah, I get it. Absolutely. So I think there is probably something to the logic there.
Not that Austin was bad in the ring after the neck injury, but remember like 95, 96, 94, 93, this guy was a ring general. He was a hell of a worker. So that's another reason why I think this match is going to be awesome. So interestingly enough, Jeff, the part of this weekend in New York City was the Hall of Fame. And so as a reminder, the WWE Hall of Fame started technically in 1993. In 1993 was when Andre the Giant died, and there was no ceremony. There was just a video package shown during an episode of Superstars in 1993 that said he's the first Hall of Famer. So a lot of these early guys didn't really get the grand Hall of Fame treatment that, obviously we get now.
I can look up real quick, but do you have any notes in front of you in regards to how that ceremony was conducted?
Well, I do. So he never got inducted. Or you mean the one in 96?
96. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, just a small venue. It was $125 a ticket to get in. And it was like it was kind of like a black tie affair. They really tried to make it fancy. It was basically at a ballroom in a hotel. So like a banquet that you and I would go to.
Because I say, have you been to a Hall of Fame ceremony before?
Oh yeah. Okay. So I've only been to the big arena ones. Like I would have loved to have gone to the one at WrestleMania 20 in Madison Square Garden. I was actually in New York City that weekend, but didn't go to WrestleMania or to the Hall of Fame, because that's when they actually used to like enforce a dress code. It was a lot different. It wasn't in the arenas. I've been to probably 6 or 7 of them now, but so interestingly, so Andre in 93, they actually did a ceremony in 94. Okay. They did one in 95, and then they did this one in 96. Apparently it was highlighted by Shane McMahon's induction of Vincent J. McMahon, Vince's father. So would be really interesting to go back. I don't know if everything they've ever done is on the network or on Peacock, but I'd love to go back and I just watch every ceremony. I remember watching some of the, earlier ones or highlights of them, and they were really, really good. Still, one of my favorite of all time is 2004 Bobby Heenan. I mean, you might cry during it. It was unbelievable. But so after this 96 one they did in New York City, they didn't do one for 8 years. They didn't do it again until 2004. And that was the one that had Bobby Heenan, Pete Rose, Tito Santana, Slaughter, Ventura, Junkyard Dog, Greg Valentine, Harley Race, Don Morocco, Big John Studd. I mean, it was crazy. And then the following year was the Hogan Piper one, and then we were off and running with it. But just interestingly enough, it was I did hear that Shane McMahon speech was awesome.
Well, and I remember I went to the one, it would have been 2007, and Dusty Rhodes and Curt Hennig were the two kind of headliners, if you will, at that one. And so it was at the Fox Theater in Detroit. Yep. And so I kind of, at the time, the Ford Field was new. And so the Fox Theater's right there downtown Detroit by it. So and like you, it was really a mix. And this is like, you're kind of like a smaller, balcony theater venue. It wasn't that big of, it was definitely not the arenas at this point, like they were doing and stuff like that. But I remember it was really a smattering of I remember I wore khakis and a polo because I didn't know what to wear.
Well, they used to print it, for those that remember, they used to print it on the ticket that you needed to have, I believe it said collared shirt or something.
Yeah. And I think that's what me and my buddy wore because we didn't know any better. And so, okay. So we're in this match now where we'll kind of, we've been talking about our memories here. We got Bret technical kind of working the mat with Austin. It's almost kind of odd to see Austin kind of down on the mat get worked like this a little bit. You don't always think that that's kind of his style and what he's doing. But Bret kind of got him just kind of like an arm bar, just kind of locked down at this point. Austin kind of, trying to play up, reach for the ropes, can't get there. But kind of real slow pace so far, real technical stuff.
It is. When you have 30 minutes to work, you start off slow and you kind of build to this.
Fill the time.
Oh, Austin just dropping him right on his neck on the ropes. And again, it's just funny watching him be like the heel aggressor. Not that he was much different as a babyface, but still interesting to watch. Hey, we haven't talked about this yet. I don't even think I asked you this. It was a while ago now, but your boy Goldberg at the Saudi Arabia show. Do you have any respect for what he did, or do you still just hate him and wish he was gone forever?
Okay. Oh boy.
Because I thought it was a decent match. It was arguably his second best match behind the Lesnar match since he's been back in the fold over the past number of years. And I thought that spear at the end was badass. But what do you think? He had
it was a decent match. I'll give him that. I think, the spear spot, that'll be replayed forever. That's just kind of how it is. I still think, they put on a fine match. I still don't think he should have been in that match. I don't know if you saw this week, he's come out talking a little bit about, I feel like a lot of it's the company line when we know the kind of behind the scenes on a lot of this, but he has said, look at what we've done for the community and, the rest of the world over there. And, I said, I've been over there 3-4 times. We've done a lot. Look what we've done for the women. There's been a lot of progress there. Credit where credit's due. Yeah, there's been a lot of progress there. Excuse me. But while he put on a good match, I still don't think he belongs out there wrestling these people because they've pointed out their average age is really old at this point. And I just don't have the desire to watch a Goldberg match. Matt Riddle came out too recently and said he really wants to have a match with Goldberg in 2022. And I'm thinking to myself, don't put that out there. I just don't want that. I don't want I want to see other people and Goldberg is not one of those people I want to keep seeing. And so the Saudi show, I hate the fact that it was actually better than I would have expected. They do play it up a lot of times, it is the feel good kind of house show. It's just the super house show. And so the wrestling and kind of matches themselves were actually pretty good, minus the 15-minute total Queen's Crown tournament, which they really they just did not give them enough time on that one. I'll kind of fight on that one, or I'll die on that hill. But to your point, yeah, while it was a good match, I don't want to see him anymore. He's not someone that is getting me like if I got wrestling on in the background, he's not someone that I'm running back to the TV to watch.
Yeah, his exact quote was, "We're part of a revolution" in terms of what they're doing over there.
No, you're not.
Look, yeah, well, I mean, they've come a long way with the women. I'll say that, and that's cool that they got a couple matches. The Queen's Crown thing. I mean, that had nothing to do with them being over there. It was just a shitty tournament. And
they did a piss board. They did a piss board. Which why
bother? Why bother if you're going to just make it a joke?
Well, and we just 2 years ago we had the Evolution anniversary, and so there was that as well. Or, just a couple weeks ago, there was a 2-year anniversary. Yeah, but yeah, I'm like, why they gave him like the match we watched last week was longer than almost the entire. It was longer than the entire Queen's Crown tournament.
Well, to me, the only way to book that Queen's Crown tournament was to have Shayna Baszler kill everyone. But then I also heard, I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard that she was not allowed to wrestle over there.
Yeah, you might be, whether she didn't want to or, personal choices, stuff like that. I see in part of the dirt sheet stuff I read was that Zelina was given the win because that's what got her to resign. And so, but like for me, like I actually would have liked to seen Doudrop go over because like they've actually told a little decent story with her, like the Eva Marie stuff.
I would agree. But Shayna Baszler should have won it. How they've done nothing with her in how long has she been on the main roster? 2 years?
Couple of years now. Yeah.
Done nothing with her.
Well, and she was like, you remember, like there was, like, she hit that point in NXT where you're like, okay, enough is enough. Who do you give to her? I like,
and that's fine. And that's when you call people up and then you have them be a badass in the main roster. But unfortunately that never happens.
Right. And I think I'm actually very interested to see how they're going to keep booking Roman moving forward here, because, okay, you got Brock and stuff like that in the picture, but like, who beats him? I don't necessarily want you to have an answer, but like, because I don't know what the answer is. Like, I don't know who beats him at this point.
But I'll tell you this: I will take Reigns' title run over flip-flopping the title any day.
Yeah, I'll give you. Yes,
I will say that. Now, the other thing I will say: Reigns' title reign would mean so much more if you didn't have two world champions. And you didn't have two women's champions. And you didn't have both an IC and a US champion. And you didn't have two tag team champions. These, like, to me, I would, even if you wanted to keep the brands separate, I hate them having two championships for each spot.
Well, I hate it. Before they had that crazy women's spot with Charlotte and stuff like that, did you see the behind this? There was some whispers that they were going to unify the belt.
Oh, they should unify all of them.
And I feel like that would have been the only true way to not have that segment get as fucked up as it did, is unify them.
But I'd love to see them do that with every championship. I mean, how cool would it be at Survivor Series this year if they unified every championship? And there was just one dominant man, one dominant female. You had the IC title. I mean, I just cut it down. One tag team, and then whoever's the champion, if you want to keep the brand separate, then just have a traveling champion. And right now, you're telling me USA wouldn't be thrilled if Roman Reigns was on both Raw and SmackDown? They'd be thrilled. That's the other problem they back themselves into, is when they have the two brands. Now it's, Fox wants Charlotte and Fox wants Reigns and USA wants...
That's been bad, yeah.
Of course it is. And so you have to tell your two TV partners, they're each giving you hundreds of millions of dollars. Hey, you can't have all of the stars on your show. So, I mean, I think you can, again, unless you plan on going back to touring like a crazy amount, even if you go touring, then you just, okay, you have Reigns headline one tour and you have Edge or whoever else, headline the other set of shows. So I just, my big thing is the brand split should end. Your top guys can be on both shows. You can still not overexpose them. Maybe you have a few less guys on each show because some of the top stars are on both. But, you could also send some talent down to NXT. You could still beef up your, syndicated shows, or do an Peacock only show that gets some of the younger guys exposed. I mean, there's other things you could do. And again, to me, the Reigns thing would mean so much more if he was your champion and he was the guy and you had an Intercontinental champion that really meant something. The women, I think it's even worse because the women, it's like, okay, so what's the Raw and SmackDown women's rosters? Each of them has 6 women, and you take 3 of them seriously, and the other 3 are undercards.
When they blew up their tag division, yeah.
Well, the tag divisions are terrible.
For the women, yeah. Well, they literally
the women's terrible, and then the Raw and SmackDown tag divisions aren't that great. But if you combine them, okay, maybe you'd have something.
Well, you got Charlotte and Becky and Bianca stuff and all the storyline in there. But what woman has made out best after the draft? Mandy Rose.
Oh, there's no question. And that's the value of NXT, and that's how NXT should be used. Take some of these criminally underrated people or these people that you see potential and that just haven't been able to get going, and look at her. New gimmick, new hair. And I mean, I'm watching her, recently, and I'm like, man, she looks awesome. She looks better in the ring. It's a whole different presentation. I love it. And there's probably 10 to 15 other people that you could give that treatment to that, would be fantastic. And they'd really add to the show.
And you and I know, I talk about it all the time here, a big slingshot. Yep. Onto the Spanish announce table.
Well, and that's when they used to have those old school monitors on the tables. And so,
they weren't work tables.
The corners of those couldn't be pleasant.
No. And so, and that we can go talk a little bit. It's been about a month now, but that Halloween Havoc show, you've got we talk about all the time around here. We're a big fan of the stables, and you got the Toxic Attraction stable, with Mandy kind of leading the show there. JC and Gigi are forming, Priscilla Kelly. This is one of those where, it makes total sense. Put all the belts on them. And I read recently it was because they're trying to attract a younger demographic or a younger male demographic to the attractive ladies. And so, which I get it. It's all part of it.
Guess what? It worked. It worked in 95 with Sonny and Sable.
Yep. And so, but then you go out there and they actually put on good matches.
Yep. You going to do this?
Just elbow. Yep.
I mean, I guess they're not counting or whatever. I don't think this was no DQ, but they've been outside the ring for a long time. Yeah, I guess Tim White's trying to get him back in the ring. Had Austin on the Spanish announce table. This is Bret on the Spanish announce table. Yeah. Just actual tables, and hit him with a elbow drop, and man, this is just a battle. This is the kind of match you want to have in New York. I mean, the fans just loving it, and this is great. And remember, Austin wasn't, he was Austin, don't get me wrong, but he wasn't Austin at this point. This is a huge, huge, huge match for him. He won the King of the Ring. People forget too, after the King of the Ring, Austin kind of sputtered a little bit. So it's not
even me talking through the build. There was like a gap. It's like a gap in your resume. Like, what happened?
And I'll look it up while we're talking here, but to the best of my knowledge, he was either on the pregame show or not on SummerSlam 96 at all. Okay. So King of the Ring in June of 96, he wins the King of the Ring. All right. The next pay-per-view after that was International Incident, and he beat Mark Marrow in a kind of rematch from their really good match at King of the Ring. So he wasn't involved in the main event at all or, anything, but he was in kind of a mid-card match. Then SummerSlam 96.
Your memory is pretty good on that one, buddy.
So SummerSlam 96, that's right. The pregame show. He beat Yokozuna in 152.
Free for all.
So he wasn't even on the show. Okay.
A minute 52 against Yokozuna. Yeah.
But Savio Vega was in a 13-minute match, and the New Rockers were in a 12-minute match.
I don't remember.
And Mark Marrow was in an 11-minute match. So Mark Marrow was on the show, and Steve Austin wasn't.
I don't remember this one. It's one we won't cover, so I'm going to spoil it here for you. During the free-for-all match between Stone Cold Steve Austin and Yokozuna, the top rope broke when Yokozuna attempted a bonsai drop, enabling Austin a guaranteed victory. Yep. Sure. There you go. Didn't remember that, but okay.
And then the following month, so this is September now, this was the Shawn Michaels Mankind match.
In your house, or Mind Games.
Guess who Stone Cold wrestled?
On that one,
he wasn't in the building that night.
Oof.
So again, everyone, oh my God, Steve Austin cuts the promo. Austin 316 is born, and the Attitude Era was perfect. And oh my God, everything that Steve Austin did was incredible. I'm not blaming Steve Austin for this, but Mark Marrow, minute-long free-for-all, not on a pay-per-view. Okay. So, they really didn't do much with him. 15-minute match, he beats Triple H. Again, just Hunter Hearst Helmsley at the time, at the pay-per-view after that. And now we're here in the Garden, and he's going 30 minutes with Bret Hart. So my point to this, Jeff, okay, and I think it's a very good point, is they weren't doing shit with him after Austin 316. They did nothing with him. And his career, there was no guarantee after he cut that promo he was going to be a star. But why is he a star? In large part because of this match and then the WrestleMania match against Bret Hart. Bret Hart made Steve Austin. The Bret Hart feud made Steve Austin. But dude, he was languishing prior to this match, big time.
Well, and this is one too, and we're kind of speaking to his early career. It was only a month prior to this where and it might seem like a little thing, but it's really not. A month prior to this is when the Shattered Glass in his theme song was added. And so wow. The hell froze over. And so less than a month, and now of course, it's iconic as he is, and that, kind of theme song. But yeah, he really wasn't Austin as we know him nowadays. Yeah.
Well, let me give you another wrap on this. If Shawn Michaels doesn't lose his smile, the main event of WrestleMania 13 is Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. So who's Steve Austin wrestling?
At that point,
we don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So
that's a thought right there. Yeah.
Does Stone Cold Steve Austin reach the heights he did, get the push he did, if his WrestleMania 13 match is in a 6-man tag with the Legion of Doom instead of versus Bret Hart in the I Quit match? Mm-hmm. You don't know. So it's interesting to see what happened during this stretch.
Yeah,
there was no guarantee. The moral of the story here is just because Steve Austin cut that promo King of the Ring did not mean that he was going to become the megastar that he did. There was a lot of time it took for that to happen. Okay. Almost a year before he even had that WrestleMania 13 match. And there's a lot of shit that could have gone wrong. And they booked him very, very poorly during this. They did not book him perfectly. Far from it. Even when he was champion, they did not book him well.
Well, and we'll talk about it in the aftermath, but even some of his matches after this one, you say kind of almost like a failure to launch in a lot of ways. Now that you're saying this, I'm like, man, he's making some good points here, because we'll talk about what those matches were, but they weren't great. They weren't incredible, 5-star, 4.5-star type things.
Ooh.
You got Austin beating the hell out of Bret on the turnbuckle at this point, or sitting up on the top rope. Yep. So yeah, kind of almost failure. This match, again, just kind of happened at this point, but then it wasn't a ton that happened. Austin up on the top rope. What's he doing here?
Yep. Again,
don't see this very often. Yeah. Don't see this very often. Yep.
Big superplex.
Big superplex. Yep.
Stiff one.
He's not wearing knee braces. That's how you know it's early days, Austin. Double cradle there, though. Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
I'm actually surprised they don't do that gimmick more often, double pin.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point.
So you want to hear another hot take from me today?
Well, go for it, man. You're on a roll.
And I'm gonna tell you this, and I want you to start paying attention to it. And I want all of our listeners to start paying attention to this too. I will tell you, I am not there's a lot of things that Tony Khan says and does that I don't particularly love. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad he started AEW. I'm glad he had the financial backing to do it the right way. I'm glad they have a great TV partner. I'm glad that they're, brought back Punk and they've given Danielson a new life, et cetera, et cetera. I'm happy about all of that. Okay. I'm not an AEW hater at all. I watch it. I order the pay-per-views. I love it. Okay. But there's two things that really pissed me off recently. Number one is him comparing himself to Ted Turner. Come on. Ted Turner, self-made billionaire, one of the greatest entrepreneurs of all time.
That was a stretch. Yeah.
And the reason that you own AEW is because your dad gave you millions and thought you would lose it. Okay. So look, I don't fault anyone for, having family money and being able to do things. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make him a bad person at all. But don't sit there and compare yourself to a self-made billionaire in any capacity. Okay. So that whole thing was bizarre. But here's the real kicker. Start paying attention to this. You probably never noticed it, and I want everyone listening to pay attention to it too. The thing he does that infuriates me is he says, I, all the time. I started AEW. I am doing this. I do that. It's not we, okay? I know people that own their own business have no employees, and they say we. Okay, because of subcontractors or graphic designers or their only employee or whatever. And this guy has the audacity to do this I thing. And it's not by accident. It's a very self-centered way of looking at things. Listen, Tony, there is no AEW if the Young Bucks and Cody and Kenny didn't do All In.
Well, go ahead. Okay. I have a thought, but keep going.
There is no AEW. So quit it with the I this, I that. Okay. You wouldn't have the money if it wasn't for your old man. You wouldn't have been able to start a promotion without those VPs. So quit saying I, say we. Okay, because it's not just you, it's everyone that works for you. It's the 4 VPs that had the vision to do All In that got this thing up and running. It's your TV partner that without that TV contract, there is no promotion. It's Chris Jericho lending a ton of credibility early on by signing a 3-year contract with you. So there's a lot of we's in there. And I hate that I thing. And, I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to this that don't particularly love Vince McMahon. And there's a lot of things that Vince McMahon's done over the years to piss people off. But let me tell you something. He's not out and center on media interviews everywhere, okay, like Tony. And when he is, it's we. It's our company. It's the WWE. It's not I. So Tony has become a heel without even trying to become one through some of the things he said recently. And the last thing I want is for him to be a TV character. But I guarantee ego gets in the way and he ends up on TV and he's going to be a heel because he's a heel in real life. But he's got to quit this I bullshit, man. I'm telling you, start paying attention to it. Start reading some of this stuff. You'll notice it.
He has said that he does not want to be an on-screen personality, but he's already beyond that.
Then why is he doing every media? And why is he talking to every podcast that'll have him on?
Yeah, and I
picked the matches. I started the promotion. I did this. I do that.
There's a lot of that, and then someone I think Reddit pointed out it's sad to see about the Ring of Honor stuff, and they're kind of having to close up shop for a while. Who knows if they'll actually come back?
All right, so Austin, hold on real quick. Austin's got the $1 million dream in here.
Yep, got it locked in.
Center of the ring.
Someone pointed what if Ring of Honor had the money to sign the Bucks like a year or two ago? Like where would they be?
1, 2, 3.
There it is. Got it.
And that was the old finisher.
Kicked off the ropes. Yep.
He beat Roddy Piper with a WrestleMania 8.
Yep. To put a quick cap on it, like what if
Please.
Ring of Honor had the money to pay some of those people and continue doing a show, like if Adam Cole had stuck around, or the Bucks had been signed, or
Vince had signed the Young Bucks.
Yep. Yeah.
They met with him. I mean, Cody, all those
that was
guys.
rumored.
I mean,
yep.
Omega, Triple H talked to all of them.
What was a 6-month deal or something?
So, I mean, if he would have actually been able to bring them in, NXT, WWE, whatever, Sir I wouldn't have some little wrestling promotion that he started with Daddy's Money. Now, with all that being said, I love AEW. I'm glad they're doing it. I'm getting a ton of enjoyment out of it. I pay my $50 for the 4 pay-per-views a year, but I don't love the way that he carries himself.
That booking. Yep. I get you.
All right, let's get into the aftermath.
Ho! It's time for the aftermath.
All right, what'd you think?
I don't know if it's because you and I were just having a good conversation or what, but that did not feel like 30 minutes.
No,
like that flew by.
Yeah, it's interesting. It went really fast. Good match, good mix of stuff. Again, you have to remember this is 96, so the brawling outside on the Spanish announce table. That
for the most part, it was in the ring though. But yeah.
But I mean, this was a pretty intense match, a really good match. Bret wins, but Austin comes out looking better. I mean, both men look great. The thing with Bret, and I think this is so impressive. He hadn't wrestled in 8 or 9 months, and he looked like perfect.
That kickoff on the finish was a little sloppy, but who are we? Who am I to judge? So yeah. But okay. So what do you have on this one? Yeah, and so you actually had Hart then going on taking on Psycho Sid, who was actually the next month's In Your House. Actually, Michaels was guest commentator on this one, and actually costing Bret the victory. Trying to get involved and stuff like that. And so this is where you have really, it had been building, but kind of getting into it. Shawn and Bret, so the feud going on there as well too. But also at the same time, you had Hart and Austin continuing to fight as well too, or kind of have their feud as well. It was actually a Royal Rumble a couple of months after this one. You had Hart actually tossing Bret, Hart tossing Austin out of the ring. But the ref's not noticing that he was dumped out of the ring. And so him coming back into the ring and winning the Rumble when the referees were distracted. And so you then had Bret quitting the next night in protest. So, you're kind of having that. But this, again, though, to kind of deal with the controversy and kind of what was happening, we get to as we have covered before on the show here, the In Your House 13 Final Four. And so this was the match between Austin, Vader, and The Undertaker, along with Bret Hart for the WWF Championship after Shawn had relinquished the belt. And so go back, you go into the archives, the Payoff archives, of course. You covered that match before. That was a great match as well, too. And so while Hart won it on that pay-per-view, it was actually the next night on Raw, costing him the title against Psycho Sid. So Sid Vicious, whatever. So so just kind of interesting how it played out a little bit there. We will get to some more stuff because matches around that time because there's a lot more to cover, but things happening. So where do we got on the PWI this year? We have Bret at 16 in 1996 and Stone Cold Steve Austin at number 22 in 1996. So from the PW Torch on this one, the show stealer was Bret versus Steve Austin, a match that began slowly, maybe a tad too slowly, but built logically and believably and steadily until it turned into a match of the year candidate. The final 15 minutes of the match would compare favorably with any final 15 matches of any match worldwide, especially because of the credibility both men have. It was the biggest match of Austin's career by far, and the first match for Bret Hart in nearly 8 months, yet neither were hampered greatly by either factor. The finish didn't hurt Austin terribly as he had Bret locked in the Cobra Clutch sleeper when Bret pushed off the ropes. A super match and phenomenal considering they only had been in the ring together a couple of times on overseas house shows. I have a feeling they will probably top this the next time out. Interesting prediction there. 4.5 stars. And so Observer Newsletter on this one, a textbook example of how to build a long match of the year caliber performance without doing any suicidal moves. Austin came out mainly to cheers. After a top rope suplex by Austin, Hart caught him in a cradle for a great near fall. Yep, we called that one. There was a super heat at this point with fans chanting, "Let's go Hitman." After a Stone Cold Stunner, Hart became the first to kick out of the hold. Austin went for a Texas Cloverleaf, but Hart made it to the top ropes. So kick turnbuckle. So 4.5 on this one. I will go first on this one. I'm actually going to give this one an 8.5.
Wow.
Yep. I thought the match itself was I'm all about the technical wrestling right now. And so whether it's just because the G1's over and we're getting into Wrestle Kingdom, as I'm watching a little bit more New Japan, and maybe I'm just enjoying the actual in-ring work a lot more. This match kind of spoke to me a little bit. And so I was a big fan of this one. It made sense. Like you said, from a build standpoint, it might have been like slow for some, but I don't think, it made sense. It was not slow to me. It was just made a ton of sense for how they were kind of putting it out there and presenting it, stuff like that. So, and while, it probably, should have docked it points for a slow build, and that there was so much on the back end in regards to the aftermath of what we would eventually see here. I thought the in-ring work spoke for itself. And so, 8.5. How about you?
Okay, I got this thing at a 7. I didn't enjoy it as much as you. I thought the match was good. Not out of this world great. WrestleMania 13 was better. Wasn't a ton of build to this. I think I took points away as I, talked through what Austin did between the King of the Ring and this match, because there just was nothing. So it's not like he came in hot with all this build and he had been running down Bret Hart for 6 months. And there's a lot you could have done to build to this, but you didn't. And it just kind of got thrown together. So a lot of great stuff would happen with these two. Gosh, it went on for, another year, more than that. Right. I don't know. I just didn't love it. Again, it's a crime what they did with Steve Austin after. I don't understand how in June of '96, after he cuts that promo, you don't put the rocket ship on him, or at least give him an IC title run, or at least, put him at a prominent spot. It took, 2 classics with Bret Hart for them to finally, start doing something with him. And even after that, it was still WrestleMania 14 before he got the belt. And I love a good build, but, you got to do something with the guy. They didn't give him the IC title for a long time.
Interesting. Okay. Good stuff all around. It. Yeah. Something we forgot, Tom. I can't believe we've made it to this far in the episode. Like we mix it up with people no matter what, but the holiday season, at this point, the holiday season, Thanksgiving over, all that good stuff. We're at the point though, we want to make sure that everybody, it's cold out, but that shouldn't mean that you're not taking care of yourself. You're not grooming yourself. Don't forget Manscaped, the Christmas holiday, that, however you celebrate, no matter what you celebrate, the holidays are coming up. It's time to use that code PAYOFF. You get 20% off. You get free shipping at manscaped.com. All kinds of great products. Again, I've been saying it for a while now. My brother, hopefully he's listening. I may have spoiled it for him. He's getting some stuff. He doesn't know what. I'm not going to say it, but you know what? He's definitely getting some things. Might be 4.0. You never know. And so, but yes, absolutely make sure that you're using our code PAYOFF20. PAYOFF20. Oh my gosh, terrible on my part. PAYOFF20, our new code, because we're so popular. PAYOFF20 for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com.
All right, man. Fun episode. Great match. I'm excited for what December holds for us. I don't know what's coming up next, but surprise me.
I actually have some of these matches set up. And so there could be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-man match from Armageddon 2000 next week.
Oh, is that next week?
That could be next week, my friend. Dude, for the WWE Championship in a Hell in a Cell. Triple H, Kurt Angle, Rikishi, The Rock, Stone Cold, and The Undertaker.
Wow, I'm excited to cover that. That's going to be a fun match, man. That's kind of one that gets forgotten a little bit. So I'm excited.
Not next week. We got it, buddy.
So many matches to cover. We're gonna look back one day and we're gonna be like, we covered 500 different wrestling matches, ranked them all, talked about them all. The archives. And if you're new to the show, man, go back and listen to some of the old episodes in the archives. there's just pick out the matches that, you loved as a kid or, you remember fondly, and go back and watch them, listen to what we had to say. And yeah, there's some fun episodes. So, all right, good stuff, Jeff.
Yep. Well,
I'm excited for next week. I'm more excited for next week now. And we'll see everyone next week on an all new episode of The Payoff.